I'm Poe. This is
No. Welcome to the DaPoNoPodcast. All right, man. So it's been a while.
Has been a while.
Got 200 talking shit segment stuff, whatever. You can beat this. I still like 2 Islanders talking shit, man.
It is pretty catchy, man. I was proud of myself for coming up with that
Hell yeah.
shindig, but it is a little less appropriate for some of the younger viewership, but that's okay. It's okay.
Our podcast, some of our subjects aren't meant for everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
at some points in their life, it's not meant for everybody.
No.
At another point, yes, it would make a lot of sense. But for some, it's like they just don't get the context. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think we should just jump right in, man. And,
all right, cool.
I know it's been a while. You know, we've did our camping trip in the winter. We had our Brada Gomes interview,
so cool.
which was awesome. If you get a chance, go back and check out that episode.
Great local Northwest talent.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing man. So
yeah. And then we did have our Hawaiian Civic Club festival, the Ahamele, which sadly we had to spend, well, not sadly, I mean, we were proud too, but, you know, we spent all of our time volunteering and helping make that thing become a great event for a ton of people. Beautiful day, beautiful weather.
Oh, God, yeah.
Tons of great
awesome.
hula halaus, food, Ono food. And then, you know, all the great vendors that were there. It was a little bit of a different layout. I liked it because it was a little bit more spread out, but it's hard because not everybody understands that, you know, you might have to go a little further to find certain things. But
well, and I think that's one of the lessons learned that the club was talking about is that, they heard some people who were like leaving. They're like, hey, you guys used to have vendors. Where is everybody? The makeke's outside in the back. It's like, man, we should have really had like a map because it was so different than it has been since the inception. Like my memories of being there, like when I was a kid, I was like, everything was crammed this hallway to the cafeteria in the back, and then we squeeze like sardines through the hallway to get to the gymnasium so we can watch the halaus.
Yep.
So but also during that time we had, we lost our last grandparent, and that was sad in of itself, but it's one of those things we know that life is and time is finite. It's not infinite. But after it had happened, it was like it's a weird feeling to me, and I was sort of wanted to get your take on it. Like we don't have grandparents anymore. Those people that, for me, like putting our grandpas up on a pedestal, and then holding our grandmothers in this it's like, I don't know what it is, but it was definitely different, and it was something very loving from them. But now they're gone. It's like, how did that hit you, or what do you think about that?
It's interesting because I didn't think about it in totality until you asked me. When you started having those thoughts, and then when you said, dude, do you realize we have no more grandparents? That's when it really hit me.
Yeah.
Because I'd never really thought about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew they were all gone. It's so part of it almost makes me feel sad, no shame, but just sad that, am I forgetting them? Because I didn't think about it that deeply. I have such great and fond memories of them individually. And of course, hearing stories from other people.
Yeah.
I have very fond memories of stories that other people have told me about them. But how did it make me feel? I think there was just this realization that, with our life expectancy as humans nowadays, I'm on the second half of it.
Yeah.
Halftime's over.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where my mind went, was like you had said, our time here is finite. And there was this kind of, not dread, it wasn't really fear, I wouldn't say. It was just kind of like a, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I'm, not in the closing minutes. Hopefully, if I live to that life expectancy, or hopefully beyond.
Trying to make it to overtime.
Yeah. Let's
Double
get some
or
extra.
triple.
Let's get some extra quarters in there. You know,
No more Kansas City tiebreaker here. We go until someone wins or loses.
And so that I think there's this shift in my mindset about life, and how does that manifest? I think part of it has become, I'm realizing mentally I'm letting go of a lot of things.
As far as
just personal property, like just things like that I really love, like things that I used to collect, or I still do collect them, but like there's this almost sense of being like, you know what, life does not matter that much. I need to stress about holding on to that, kind of stuff. And
now, can I dive into that a little bit? Is it more like these little tangible things, like things that brought memories back from you being as a kid, or is it really things that for whatever reason you held on to them, whether it was sentimental value or use, and then you find out that you don't have it now? What are you letting go of? What are those things that you're letting go of?
I think it's just everything. Like,
oh, okay.
Like I've never really cared to like want to have the biggest, big screen TV or anything, or the best this or best that. I just wanted to have something. I just didn't want to be without, because as we've kind of described in our childhood, we felt like we went without a lot of the time, and
the tangible stuff.
The tangible stuff.
Yeah.
So I think there's a bit of me just like willing to not. And of course, we're in a consumerist, society, and so it is about stuff. At least that's what we're being, kind of told and taught, and that's the mindset about things. But I don't know. Maybe it's given me a better perspective. I like all of that. Hopefully, comes back to, I believe it's because I'm just finding better connectivity with the things that really do matter, which I think is the people that I love. So I think it's helped me shift a little bit about my parenting with Noah, especially. I feel like him and I have been connecting a little bit better recently. Paoakalani, I feel like she treats me as if she admires me and deeply desires a connection, but she wants me to know that she can do it. Like, she wants me to know that she's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily like be okay without me. Mm-hmm. And I hope she is. I hope she will be just fine without me. Of course. Because that day is coming, right? Mm-hmm. But I think I feel like she's trying to prove that, hey, I am becoming a young woman, and so I can't be trusted with certain things. And of course, she's always going to be my baby girl. She'll probably get away with murder, with me. Yeah. I think she's just trying to ease my mind because she knows how much I care. And I
can see that.
So there's that. So my parenting's been going good. My connection with Jen, my spouse, my wife, has been much better. Communication has always been our, biggest struggle, and in different ways, mm-hmm. and about certain things at certain times. But just in general, communication has always been tough. And, when you actually go and look at it, a lot of times biggest, indicators of rough marriages usually stem from some type of communication breakdown.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like we're anybody, special for having our communication issues. I'm just saying I'm proud of us for intentionally trying to attack it, not make a big deal out of it, mm-hmm. but know that, hey, we're both working on this. So when we both fall or, trip and fall or stumble, then there's a lot of grace there. So anyways, roping all of my thoughts, because I just verbally vomited everything in my mind. So not having grandparents has made me, I think, really realize how much our time is finite and how much I want to appreciate the things that I say really matter the most to me. And so it's my family. So that was a lot of gibberish just to make
No, it wasn't gibberish, man. I appreciate you unpacking it, because it was a lot, and I know I threw in some clarifying questions that I wanted to dig into a little bit, and I appreciate you being able to do that. And then again wrap it up at the end. So um, I think, I commend you for, do I really think it was the trigger of all of this? I don't know, because I feel over the last few years, through a lot of the discussions and talks that we've had, and just these little nuggets that I've tried to share with you about certain aspects of your relationship with your kids and with Jen, just some other avenues to try to, I don't want to say help, but just maybe look at those things a little bit differently,
Mm-hmm.
especially the self-reflection part. Like, I know that sometimes we as fathers can be really down on ourselves on how we're doing the job as a father, because it's never, we hardly ever hear from our kids like, Dad, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
It isn't until they get older that maybe you have some vulnerable discussions about it, and it comes out that, Dad, I really appreciate what you did, because I'm the man or the woman I am today because of the things you did back here,
Mm-hmm.
here, and here. And before that happens, we're just like, I just hope they don't drown. I hope they
Yeah.
don't end up on,
Milk
so
carton.
yeah, milk carton or on some wanted poster, so, um, but I definitely can see where, when you delve into the thoughts of, of us not having grandparents anymore, and really what does that mean? And then what does that mean for us? I'm right there with you with the thought of, and it's just being pounded in our head even more about how finite our time is here, especially being on the tail end, in that second half of life, and trying to make the most and the best out of it.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where we were prior to us trying to make that decision, giving the valiant effort that, listen, I don't like how I did that last half, and I want to make sure this half is the best I can make it by putting forth a concerted effort, to whereas before I may have been reactionary, now I'm proactive
Yeah.
in how things are. So no, I thought it was great, man. What's weird is, as you were saying those things, I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, why hasn't that crossed my mind? Because in my thoughts, it was totally different.
Really?
Yes, it didn't have anything to do with my family, or I mean, it did in a roundabout way. So when I started thinking about that, I just felt immense pressure. Like,
Really?
yeah, like I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest grandchild. I'm the oldest in our family. I'm the oldest in our extended family. And I just vividly remember Grandpa explaining Grandma's wish, and then his wish as well, that, hey, and I remember Isaac and I were sitting there, you guys need to make sure you keep this family together. And I feel like I'm failing at that. you know
Mm.
I mean, there are certain aspects of relationships I have with our cousins that I feel are good, but they could be so much better.
Yeah.
And also, you know with our grandparents being gone, and me, I am a grandparent
Yeah.
now, that realization is even put back in my face even more. Like, hey,
Mm.
this is, you're there now,
Yeah.
and not the fact that, my grandkids or my kids are gonna think back on this like we are right now. I mean, maybe they will. I don't know, but at the same time, it's like, man, I want to make sure that for everyone I come in contact with, they know they have my undivided attention. They know that I value them, and I value the experience and the time that we get to share, whether it's something very small and minuscule, or in totality our relationship over all these years and all the
Mm-hmm.
experiences we've shared. So yeah, it was it was very, like, eye opening, and it was like physically a lot of pressure, like physically just feeling my chest get tight, and just, again, I'm very analytical, and just going down a
Mm-hmm.
spiral staircase of just all of these what ifs. What does this look like? Am I doing a good enough job? That whole self-reflection thing that I do as a father, now I'm doing as,
Yeah.
the patriarch of our family. I'm not saying that I am that, because again, just like our podcast, Pono means righteous, we're
Yeah.
on the path to that. So yeah, it was a little bit different, but I appreciate you saying that, because a lot of those things that you're talking about, it's making me look at, those are things that I'm working on, and I have been working on for a lot of years with my kids, especially. And in conversations with them, I see where I'm still faltering.
Yeah.
in some of those things. And I appreciate them having the confidence to bring it up to me. Now, granted, I wish it was like right in the thick of when it's going on, because I then think about, because like my daughter, Keikilani, for instance, she is, I don't want to say she's overly emotional, but she reads me, and that can turn into an emotional reaction for her, thinking that she did something wrong, or that she she's the object of me being RBF and short with her, and I'm trying to tell her that that's not the case.
So not necessarily what you say, but how you say it.
Oh yeah, come on, man,
Okay.
like mom.
Yep.
It's not what you say, but how you say it. And so I'm really trying to work on that stuff without at the same time compromising why I forced myself to be that way as well. And so trying to find that happy medium. But then also looking at, conversations I've had with the grandkids. It's like, man, did I really have to be like that? Did I really have to say that way?
Yeah.
Because then it just harkens back to the conversation Michael and I've had. Let you just be grandpa.
Yeah.
And me still trying to figure out, what does that mean to me? Because now these pillars of who I had reference of, yes, they've been gone a long time, but still, it's like I still hold them in these high regards, because I see of the relationships they had with us. Even though they didn't get to see us much, it seemed like they always made undivided time for us, and it was never judgmental. It was never, they were never harsh with anything. And here I am. Sometimes I feel like I got to be harsh. No, I don't. I can grandparent in a softer way. I just need to do that. Again, give the same message, but just have the delivery be a little bit more empathetic and caring, maybe, and understanding. Because I think one of the things I definitely get lost in is where I'm very analytical. So I think about a lot of things, and um, I'm not emotional in my decisions. I'm very analytical in my decisions, and I expect other people to be like that, and that's not the case. And I find that sometimes my reaction, or the way I come across to them, it's like I'm disappointed because they didn't take the time to think all these things out. Well, how do they, one, when they have no context for this stuff, and two, why does it matter? Why does it matter if they've applied a life lesson to it or not? Because 9 times out of 10, these younger kids that I'm interacting with, they have no context for what's going on in my mind, because I'm 47 years old.
Yeah.
And they are single digits on the lower half of the single digit spectrum. And it's like, come on, Paul, you got to do better, man. But at the same time, I hope I do try to, when I get those moments to where I can be softer, they really understand that I do love them. But I also know that how kids can read other people, they can read people's emotions, and whoop, technical difficulty. Hold on a second.
That's funny. I saw that thing facing down. I was like, when did that fall like that? And then I was gonna say something, but you were talking so eloquently. I was like, I don't want to interrupt him. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, damn it.
But no, I just circling back. I know I need to do better, and I think all of the thoughts I have of, like, it's on me. I think that's the smoothest transition I can make, is make sure that when I'm concentrating on something else, that when someone needs my attention, that I really need to focus on breaking away from whatever I was working on mentally and devoting my attention to them like that.
Yeah.
Well, but the reason why I don't do that is because I have a tendency to maybe forget things from over here. So that's what I have to, that's why I've done that, is when I'm sitting here thinking about this, trying to come up with a solution or doing a solution to this thing, and someone inserts another problem, my mind is already going down a rabbit hole on this thing. And now they introduce this, and here I am trying to pivot to this. I would love to be able to pivot to that, address that concern, listen, let them vent, or create a solution for that, or help them do something, and have the confidence that I can come back to this and pick up right back off or pick right back up where I left off at. But that is not. I don't feel like that is always the case, because when I try to do that, I come back and I forget things, or I just blow this off because, okay, I'm done here. Okay, squirrel moment. Oh, I can go do that, and I totally forget about this. And so that's what I know I need to work on. And after, again, like you, vomited a lot about what was going on with my head when we talked about, or when we thought about, not having grandparents anymore. And I think I really need to work on just being more empathetic and compassionate, especially with the keikis and, little mo'opunas and all that. I've got to do a better job, because that's the one thing I would hate, is for them to think, oh God, there's not uncle, there's Grandpa Poe, or, Papa, or whatever their nickname is for me, and have that be like a fear-based reaction initially.
Yeah.
Because I'm already, we're already big people, and here we are freaking towering over these little people. And then if I come off as something that's maybe scary to them, or they're fearful of, that's the last thing I want.
Yeah.
I
can imagine, dude. But shoot, first of all, bro, like, I want to give you props, man, for being so courageous to kind of, verbalize that and get that out, man. That's huge, bro, to, have the personal onus on, what's going on, and being willing to address it, man. I think that's a proof of the aloha that exists in your heart, man, for your ohana, for your family. And I think maybe that's also, like you were saying, just this understanding of finite time. It's one of those things where you just got to appreciate it all the more, man. And I think you realizing you have a finite amount of time with these keiki, with these kids, is a good thing, and you have time, man. I mean, I mean, we do, though. We have a little. Yes. No, I didn't say we have a crap ton of time. I said we have time.
Yeah. We're not halfway through the first quarter. We are deep into the third quarter, looking at, and then hopefully some OT. But I thank you for that. And again, it harkens back to, me being tough on myself as a father, and then I'm seeing that this is carrying over as a pattern with, the grandkids, and it's like, man, that is, I need to work on that, because I don't want these kids to ever be fearful of me or scared of me when they first see me. I want them to know that, oh, there's Papa. Oh, he's smiling. And that smile is meant for me because he sees me.
You want them to run from you because they want you to chase them, not because they're afraid of you.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, was I ever scared of Grandpa Bill? No.
When I knew he was upset, I was.
Oh yeah, his boom. Yeah, he dropped the bass in his voice.
Yeah, he took a tone.
Yeah, and that voice would just sort of echo.
Yeah,
echo chamber of the room we were in. It's like, oh, Grandpa.
Even Grandpa Naipo, he had a way. He didn't have a booming voice. I mean, I'm sure he did, but
he had a look.
Yeah,
and the way he would say certain things to you, it was very like, you need to listen to what I'm saying. I'm speaking slowly so you can understand it. And you need to let this seep into that 3 pounds of mush between your ears, boy. Okay? You will give your brother a hug, and you will both apologize, or I'm going to pack all this food up and go home.
Yep.
Sorry. Bro, I'm sorry, dude. It was done. And then after that, Grandpa was, back to himself.
Completely fine.
Yeah. So
Jedi mind tricks, I tell you. Can't wait to get a little bit older and I'll become a grandpa. You're still a Padawan. You're just newly a grandfather.
But well, so with that, comes, like you said, we're on the tail end of our life, whereas, my kids are adults now. Your kids are, one just started high school, but you have the other one on the second tail end of high school. And what does that transition look like for you guys? You guys are hopefully be empty nesters here soon.
Yeah, I have this feeling that, I think we use the terminology chapters, and I think the chapters of our life here in Washington are coming to a close.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't really care for the time that we live in, like
Yeah.
politically and as a nation, and um, it's just, man, one of the big reasons I am not caring much for Washington anymore is some of the legislature that they're passing, and I don't want to get political, but it's important enough to me in my mind that it kind of makes me feel like I don't want my grandkids being raised here.
Yeah.
Uh, so not that that's my decision, but if I can influence it to be someplace else that I think would be better for them, then I will do that. And so, honestly, just at this phase of life, man, I appreciate Washington for all it's been for me. I have been blessed by being here and always having a place to come back to. The one time I did move away, for it was only about 7-8 months, but um, yeah, I don't know, man. Just the whole phase of life. My kids are getting ready to graduate high school, and I don't think we'll be empty nesters anytime soon. I think that there's a high likelihood that one or both of them will, live under our roof, which is fine, after high school. But they'll have responsibilities and they'll need to.
Well, yeah, there's gonna be expectations.
Expectations.
This ain't a free ride.
Yep. And so, I hope to encourage them, when they get there. But yeah, feeling like, we might want to move.
Yeah.
And so it definitely makes me sad because, you and mom are here and Dwayne is here. But there's also, I think, part of the things that's stemming some of this is some of our other family members are talking about moving after certain kids graduate. And, Dan and Dwayne have been talking, a little bit about wanting
Up and moving too.
To move to possibly get, some more exposure for our awesome niece, Emilia, for fast pitch. And I totally understand that if she, she seems like she's legit and has an opportunity and they want to get her, closer to maybe some other big name programs or, schools to get an opportunity to go there. I totally understand that. I mean, they're trying to do what they feel like is, best for their family and, wanting to have kind of an adventure at the same time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a little bit about us, we're just getting tired of the sunshine as part of it, or the lack of sunshine, I should say, tired of the rain, Washington. We've lived here our entire lives, and so it's like, might be nice to try someplace else, and it doesn't mean that we have to be there forever, but I don't know. I'm partly excited to just try something difficult, try something different.
You don't want to try and buy Auntie Leanne's house on the Big Island or anything like that?
No. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know if I could afford living over there, honestly, sadly. It would be pretty awesome, though.
I think, yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think I would suffer from island fever a little bit.
Really?
I think so. I mean, I don't know. I've never spent a good amount of time there. I don't think I've spent more than a week there.
Yeah.
I mean, and if I did, it was probably when I was way too young to remember. So like I never got to spend like a month or two, there.
Yeah.
I know, you got a chance to a little bit, and I know Doina did, several months possibly at a time, but so I don't know. But the few times that I've been there,
yeah,
I have always wanted to stay longer. But then there's that sense of like, yeah, but once you've seen everything and you've kind of gone everywhere and you get used to everything, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And I guess that is wherever you go, really, right? You get used to the roads, you know, the back roads and all that stuff. But at least here on the continent, I can drive in, hours and hours and hours in any direction. And
not just hours and hours and hours in a circle on a rock.
Now, don't get me wrong. There is a part of me, I think, which I think is possibly our ancestors kind of calling out to us to come back to the islands. And there's a part of me that would love if cost of living was different. And if I didn't have to work 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet and have probably multiple families underneath the same household just to make ends meet. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions, but just that's not a life I want to live, you know. And if I had better means, okay, I would do it.
Yeah.
Would I want to do, you know, taking care of the land later into my life? I think I would.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't mind being a, you know, farmer, you know, in some respect, and, you know, working on the land and, you know, growing stuff and providing stuff and enjoying some stuff, man. Because, dude, having some awesome, you know, trees, some fruit trees and
vegetables
stuff,
and all that.
dude.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I would enjoy it. But I'm also not the only person in the household.
Yeah.
We visited Texas and it was nice. It was really nice. There was a lot of really fun things about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's maybe just a little easier for me to say that just because I am so open to it, you know? We have some friends that want us to go and visit Missouri with them.
Missouri?
Shoot. And then got your son and got a nephew over in Alabama. And kind of was going to go spend some time with him this summer. Excited for that. And he's going to give us a little lowdown on what he thinks of Alabama, which his opinion doesn't go very far. But I wouldn't
say. Yes, he lives in the state of Alabama, but they're closer to the Gulf.
Really?
So I think that's a totally different. It's different there, you know.
Got you.
Deep central Alabama. I think there's a little bit of a difference between the two.
Cultural change.
Yeah, cultural change. You got money at Gulf.
Gotcha.
Middle Alabama, maybe not as much. But no, I think Kaino was gonna have a great time, man. And when Kamika was telling me about that, I was like, way to go, man. That's friggin' so cool to bring your nephew out like that, man.
Yeah.
So
super appreciate that.
Or, no, his cousin. He's my nephew.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, his cousin out. So yeah. And they're gonna have a good time. But
so what about you, man? You know, stage of life. And
you know what? It's funny, like at the stage of life I'm at, I have no inkling to want to move and find something better. I'm relegated to me and my girlfriend, we're going to buy this house. Mom is going to live here with us until the Lord decides to take her, you know, and I feel like that is my kuleana for here, is to make this property what Mom and Dad wanted it to be.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, even though you guys may leave, it's totally fine. It would suck. It's going to suck if you do. Yeah. But it's going to be fine because deep down, I do want the best for my brother and sister. And if that's what they feel that is, hey, it may be hard on me, but you know what I got control over? Is me and my reactions. And really, I know what my kupunas and my dad would want me to be is happy for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, rejoice in the fact that they're hopefully creating a better situation for themselves, creating better opportunities and better relationships amongst themselves, being in some place a little bit different and exploring really who they are outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know, so there is that, but there is the selfish side of me. Like, I don't want to be here by myself. Yeah. You know, I like where we get to see each other when we want to see each other. You know, Dwayna was just over here last night. She was chit-chatting with Melissa for a couple hours, and I got to see Emilia. Mm-hmm. You know, that was cool. And they up and move. That's not going to happen. But again, thinking about, you know, Grandpa. Now, granted, you're not my son. You're not leaving the islands to go move to the continent with your wife. But, you know, I know that Grandma and Grandpa supported their move, you know, and wanted nothing but the best for them and felt no ill will to them. I truly believe that, you know, so the best that I can do to honor our grandparents is to do the same, even though it's not the same situation, but it sort of is.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's where I'm at right now is, okay, what do I need to do for myself? You know, if we had FU money, we'd have this house. This is where we would live at. We would have a house on the Big Island. I would love to buy Auntie Leanne's house if we had the means.
Yeah.
And then I would like to have a getaway cabin up in the mountains somewhere. You know, and That's if we had FU money. But right now we just scrape and buy money, and we just scrape and buy money is going to keep this place and make it the place that mom and dad intended it to be, so that our family always had a place to come back to and be together. And so that's sort of where I'm at right now. I would love, I've got a good job. Do I like it? At times. It's friggin' stressful as all get out though sometimes. And that's why I get paid the money I do, is because it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's hard work. You're dealing with a lot of different stuff and having to pivot a lot, which is being a box checker like myself. It's very hard sometimes, but make it work, and I feel like I'm put in the best place right now is to be here and to help mom enjoy her retirement as best she can, not having to pay for a mortgage, and then, when her and dad took this house on, and then less than 6 months later, her husband's gone.
Yeah.
Because this was the place that dad loved.
Yeah.
And mom wanted to provide that for him in his retirement.
Yeah.
And they had a plan and everything was going great. And then God said, hey, I need him now. So with that, that's sort of how my life changes. Because, beforehand, when my kids were younger still, I was thinking about, where do I want to move to? Do I want to move out of state? Do I want to move to Eastern Washington? Do I want to move here? Do I want to move there?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to move back to the islands? Because after finding out that the Big Island was about as expensive here, if not a little bit cheaper, I was like, man, I could do that. But in researching living on the islands, yes, it's expensive. I think if you base your living off of having the same comfortableness that you did on the continent, that is not sustainable there.
Yeah.
It's not. And so you have to figure out, you have to be willing to change your living style as well as your social circle, because one of the greatest lessons Auntie Luana taught me, when asking her, hey, how do you guys make it here? It's, some houses are, or some places are multi-generational, but then there are others that are not, and granted, maybe they work one job, maybe the other person, the other spouse works a couple part-time jobs, but she's like, ultimately what makes it work out here is we're a collective unit of people. We have relationships with other people, and if we don't have, but these people do, we barter and trade with them. I have this, they have this, they need what I have what they need, and we, swap back and forth. If we're putting on a big function, just sort of like how Grandpa pulled, mom and dad's wedding reception out of thin air, is because all of these families provided different things, entertainment, food items, to make this thing come together. And it was, yes, it was probably a lot of money back then, but it would have been a heck of a lot more money if it would have just been footed by grandma and grandpas and maybe mom and dad. But it wasn't. It was a collective unit. It was a tribal come together. Hey, we're going to celebrate this together as a group, as a family. And I think that's the biggest thing missing from growing up and living here. That's the biggest disconnect, is because it's that whole me, my, I.
Yeah.
Not we, ours, us. And so would I be able to do that? I think eventually, yeah. But I don't know if my girlfriend would want to change that much.
Yeah.
And also she's a very, very, very fair skin, and the sun is her mortal enemy. And I'm sort of, when we go in July, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to cover you in a sheet, just a couple eye holes, so we'll see how it goes. But where I'm at in my life right now, I'm trying to make where I'm at work, and just cherishing the moments I get with my friends, my family, and really concentrating on those things.
Yeah.
And I think the next evolution for myself is making more time for other people. Not only my friends, but my grandkids.
Yeah.
You know, we're hoping next month to make a road trip down to Alabama, go see Kamiko, because he's looking at moving, and I've got his car he had in high school that I bought from him before he moved down to Arkansas the first time, and I don't need an extra car.
Yeah.
I got it back, and I don't need it. So he was asking about it. He's like, Dad, I want it. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to fix some stuff. He's like, I don't care. I want that car back. And I'm like, well, there's some issues with it. You know, it's going to need a paint job. He's like, I don't care. I want that car. But does it still run great? I was like, dude, mechanically, it's a rocket. Yeah. He's like, okay, well, then the other stuff we can fix. I'm like, yeah, we can. I was like, all right, let me work on it. And so that's what we're planning on doing is over the next about month and a half, make some trips to the junkyard to find some parts that can replace this and that on there and get it back in a lot better working. No, because it's in great working order. Just making sure that it looks like it's in working order. So
let me know when you're going to the
oh, dude, yeah, no, I'm
big part.
I'm like, hey, man, your Volvo. Do we need anything for the Volvo?
Yes.
Yeah, for the Ford Escape. Do you need anything? All right, let's look at those parts. What year is that? And make a little shopping list.
There you go.
So. But yeah, that's where I'm at, man, is just trying to really concentrate on being present. Not letting stuff really ruffle my feathers as much, but again, I'm failing at that. It seems like at times, not as much as before, but it's definitely a work in progress. And so again, I think the biggest change is just being cognizant and being present, cognizant of how other people react to things that I say, how I say them. Not what I say, but how I say some things. But also at the same time, making sure that I'm as present as possible, because I know I can go down spirals of thoughts and just sort of disconnect from, even though I'm a room of 3 or 4 people, I'm in my own little world and I'm not present. And I don't like when I look back at that, I'm like, holy crap, you were just like in a little hole and everything else was blurred out. But yet you had your mom, your girlfriend, maybe someone else, one of the aunties here, and you didn't even, it wasn't even like they were part of your world right then. It's like, that is not being present. And so it doesn't mean that I have to interact with them, but just letting them know that I see them, know, and that I'm here if they need me. But I'm sure when I get lost in my thoughts, I sort of glaze over and just off in la la land, And so that's what I feel like. That's where I'm at, and that's what I really got to work on. So it's not easy.
Never is, man.
Yeah.
You said a lot.
I just wonder, what dad was thinking, when he lost his grandparents. Yeah. When he was getting to that third quarter, almost fourth quarter part of his life, what was going through his mind? Was he thinking about retirement? Was that? Yeah, that was after. Yeah, this would have been after Iraq. So I wonder. That's another thing. I wonder how much his thought pattern of where we are at our age now would have changed if he didn't go to Iraq.
Yeah.
Because we know how much of a emotional pendulum he was. Swing one way, swing the other pretty quickly, so that's what a lot of my thoughts go to. Man, I wonder what Dad would be thinking about right now. I wonder how Dad would deal with this, in this type of situation. Because again, even at these ages, I wasn't around as much as I wish I was, looking back. So
I don't know, as much as I feel like I'm in, self-admittedly a stage where I'm becoming like a grumpy old fart. And I feel like Dad got there. Because I feel like he was kind of becoming a little bit of an
little crotchety.
Yeah, a little crotchety, a little curmudgeon old fart.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like I'm there. And so when I think about that, I think about, similar, Dad, did you know you were becoming a crotchety old fart sometimes that just loses his ish for no reason?
Yeah.
It looks more like a jackknob than he does looking cool.
Yeah.
Was
that before or after Iraq? Because I attribute a lot of that stuff that is not my dad to Iraq, not to Dad. You getting old? That's what's happening.
Yeah, I guess it is. It would be after Iraq.
But do you feel like you feel like because you're there, you're starting to see yourself that way, and you didn't go to Iraq? That no, dad has no excuse. Dad, you got no excuse. You were just an ass to be an ass because I didn't go to Iraq, and I'm starting to be an ass.
Well, I didn't think about it that way until you said something. Now I do feel like an ass. No, that's funny though. That is really funny. Yeah, being an old fart, it's kind of like, the get off my lawn kind of.
Stay off my lawn.
Young people are idiots. But it's funny because I think of how cringy it is that, like, I look at, mom's generation, and my in-laws generation, and there are things about their generation that I am not a fan of.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, you freaking old people. Boomers my ass. No, I love y'all boomer generation people. It's just y'all raised us, and it's different out here.
Yeah.
But now I feel like I'm becoming that. Like I'm becoming that for my kids. And I think that's natural when you have teenagers, but I'm picking up on subtle hints that, like, they're just like, oh gosh, freaking old people.
Well, it's just the same shit that we did when
I
we were that age too.
I
Man.
know.
They're sitting there, flapping their gums back. Why do you guys like that hippie hoppy music? It doesn't sound like anything, did it? And it's the same shit today. We had little sayings that they're like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
Same thing today. I'm like, bruh, that isn't even in the dictionary. That was like a sound effect, not a word you just said. So yeah, I could totally see where you. I think we're losing that. Maybe we're losing that capability of being able to relate to them. Or no, you're just like, no, this shit just doesn't make sense to me.
No, I don't think it's that. I think it's just same-ish, different day, isn't it? Like we didn't have, smartphones and stuff like that. So that's probably one of the biggest variable differences in being a teenager from when we were kids to now. But I mean, it's pretty much the same stuff, isn't it? I mean, yeah. You have no excuse, man. We went through the same thing. Grow up, y'all. No. There's that grumpy old fart coming out. Get off my lawn. Whippersnappers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have empathy for our kids' generation, but at the same time, it boggles my mind.
I think a lot of the things, I think the biggest change between when we were kids and when they're kids is stuff is so readily, easily there for them. Like we had to work for everything.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have
immediate gratification.
We had no immediate gratification.
Yeah.
It was either, okay, I'm going to go to school today and things are going to be good. Holy crap, someone got in my face and started bumping their gun. Oh, damn, what happens? I mean, yeah, that sometimes happens now, but it happens on a grander scale to where you could have these people just out of the ether just commenting you or this or that and saying some vile stuff. And you're like, man, how do you navigate that? And how do you navigate the things that are so quickly there and available for you to get and touch without actual effort?
Yeah.
What I mean by that is Walmart pickup shopping. You don't even have to go in and interact anymore. Someone else will scroll that damn Walmart, get everything in a basket for you, and bring it out to your car.
Or even deliver it to your house.
Deliver it to your house now. And that's not just Walmart. That's multiple different stores and services that are out there like that. And I'm like,
how many more drive-up things do we have, man? There's so many different drive-up things, because again, we don't even want to get out of the car. We just want to pull up, tell you what I want, get what I want, and then keep going. Yeah, and it's just exponentially all the more. I agree with you, man.
And I think that's one of the I think maybe why we're so affected by it. And again, I don't know. It's just, I feel like it is so contradictory to what's ingrained in our DNA and soul and our makeup of the people we come from. Is one of the things I've learned is that, and we've talked about it, is that I don't want to say just islanders, but not just Hawaiians, but I believe all islander nations are very much they're not so much concentrated on the goal. Yeah, they know that at the end this may happen, but they're always present in the activity they're doing now and the things they need to do to get there. I think nowadays we're so focused on that thing over there that we're just trying to rush to get to it. No matter if we're doing it correctly or not, we're just running down this road thinking we're going the right way, and it isn't until we get there haphazardly or it's not quite the thing that we wanted at the end that we look back and like, oh, no wonder, because I missed all this other stuff. And I think that's one of the things, I mentioned to Keikilani, in my little birthday message to her on Facebook, as well as what I texted her. I was like, you know what? Sometimes you just, we're in a society to where you want the next thing. You want the next endorphin. You want the next goal to be there right here, right now. But I feel like our indigenous side, the reason why that's so contradictory is because it wasn't about the rush to get to the end. It was about the path along the way and making sure that, hey, is everybody okay while we're doing this? Okay, good. Is everybody still with us? Good. Or even if it's just me, am I still good as I'm going on this path, even though it may be hard and rocky, still being able to traverse here? Because yes, I know a lot of times if you're just looking down at the floor, you can miss what's coming. But I feel like there's got to be a happy medium, because if you're just looking like this, you're going to end up stumbling over everything because you didn't look down what was in front of you. You're going to trip on that rock. You're going to miss that beautiful thing that was right there just for you. And you blew right past it because your eyes were up and looking at everything ahead of you. And the dreams and wishes that you had were here now.
I think it's interesting because like ADHD and all of those things, like they existed when we were younger, but I feel like it's like exponentially 10 times worse now, right? And
Is it worse, or are people giving that as an excuse?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's what I'm not 100% sure, but just like that whole, scattered mindedness, which is what it feels like a lot of that is, and the inability to focus, and it seems like a lot of that is pretty similar to immediate gratification.
Yeah.
An addictive mindset, basically, of like, I need that next endorphin hit, and it's just interesting to me to kind of think that, and not 100% sure where my mind was going with that, but what was I thinking with that?
So we're talking about the endorphin hits and just, chasing this high of this next thing.
Well, I just feel like, because with phones and stuff, like you said, everything is so immediate. At the push of a button, I could have entertainment, I could have
answers,
community, I could have answers, I could have an interview for a job, I could, I could create a career in, content, creation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I could do a podcast. But like, we have so many different things that are just at the push of a button. So it's always an immediate gratification thing. So it's like we're almost kind of training ourselves to, like you said, be so scatterbrained and want to go to the next thing, want to go to the next, like, yeah, that endorphin hit was good, but man, I really need another one. And man, where do I get to it? And I mean, there's things that I've read and seen where, the reason why you scroll is because it's similar to your feeling in your mind when you see a slot machine. So the reason why it tumbles is because that's it like creates some kind of release of some kind of hormone in your brain that's good. It's like, and again, gamblers, they love that chance, and so when you see them rolling, something good might happen, and so you get that like really endorphic high, and then well, that's the reason why supposedly social media is about scrolling, is because it gives you that same, and it makes you like a gambler, wants you to be addicted to stay on there, scroll through some more, click on some more things.
Yeah, don't worry about what just went by. Keep looking for the next
Where's the next one that you're going to feel good about? And of course, that's one of the great things about capitalism is, the open market and stuff like that, and a great country where we have freedom of speech and um, the Second Amendment.
Freedom of opinions.
Yeah, freedom of opinions. And but then again, here's the flip side of the coin. You're in a consumer-driven society, and it's about the next thing.
Yeah.
It's about buying the next thing to feel the next way. And if that doesn't feel good enough, just get a different thing.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. All of that is just, where my mind went when you were talking about,
trying to concentrate on the here
trying
and
to concentrate. And it's because we're always, like you said, just encouraged to go to the next thing, experience the next thing, and get the next good feels.
Yeah.
Crazy, man. I'm really curious what our great grandkids are going to be dealing with.
Yeah.
Will they have, glasses or freaking eye implants with, little graphics and stuff that they can see but nobody else sees type of things? Well, oh man, who knows with humanity? If we're around, that long. Hopefully we're around that long, but good gracious, I don't know, man.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, but I think it's one of those things too that we have control over our own thoughts and what we concentrate on. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is making sure that I practice what I preach. I don't make emotional decisions. Things I do, even though someone might not agree with it, that's totally fine. That's your opinion. But I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you, but I will tell you how I got to that point and how it makes sense to me to be able to do this now. But again, it may not make sense to you, and that's totally fine because you're not operating on the same context that I am.
Yeah.
And we can agree to disagree. But no, don't think that I just bought this $2,000 thing just because, woohoo, this made me feel good. No, I don't like spending $2,000 on something.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here thinking, okay, if I get this, it's an investment which is going to save this, this, and this. And over time, I feel like I'm going to get my return on that investment.
Yeah.
Okay. So did I sell myself on it, or was it really based on fact?
Yeah.
It's probably a little bit of both. I'll be honest with you. I try to sell myself on why I need this now. But also, I feel like the other side of me, when I hear Mom, is that practical? God, I freaking hated when Mom would ask me those questions, especially when I'm an adult. When I bought my Malibu, my 70, my Chevelle.
Yeah.
Was that really the most practical thing you needed to get? Well, we needed a car, and this was really cool. And it's fast. It goes really fast in a straight line, and my kids think it's fun. So that's why I got it, and it looks cool. No one else has this car around here. That's why I have it. So at that time, it was a status symbol. That was emotional purchase. I saw that in the auto trader. It's like, ooh, I think I could get that. So we went up to Fife and looked at it, and sure as hell, did the paperwork the next day and got it, drove it home.
That thing was awesome.
That thing was so fun. So fun.
Was it practical?
Yeah, the practical. So
it was practically awesome.
It was practically like 11 seconds, 12 seconds, and a quarter mile. So, yeah. So, yeah, I just, as far as kids nowadays, yeah, it's like with all our kids, I think ultimately they're going to make the decisions they make.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's going to be based on the guidance that we try to give them or the influences around them. If they decide to go that other route, we can't fault ourselves for that.
Oh, yeah.
It's ultimately their decision.
Yeah.
We may not agree with it, but that's okay because we're not operating on the same context and the same feelings and the same values on what they put on things. That's why when we disagree with some of the things that our kids may buy and purchase, I have to stop myself because I'm thinking, why did you do that right now? But again, I'm looking at it through the lens of a 47-year-old man, not a 21, 22, 21 to 30-year-old, young adult, and doing this. So,
yeah. Well, it's never easy to watch your kids suffer.
No.
But we, at the same time, shouldn't protect them from everything because mistakes are one of the greatest ways to learn and develop and grow.
Exactly.
So, sometimes it's best to let them trip and fall, figure it out. how you gonna figure out this thing if I'm not around?
Exactly.
You're gonna have to figure this out on your own.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel you.
I think one of the hardest things that me and Kekulani have we've gone down this road here lately of just talking about finances, what that looks like, and really what should her focus be, because she's got a lot. She's going to school, she's working part-time, she's working on things that try to feed her value and her self-worth, whether it's working out, finding a new hobby, rock climbing, or all of these different things. And all of those things take money. And where you get your money from is your job. And well, if you only make, work part-time, we break down how much you make a month, then that's all you can spend. Well, how much do these other things cost?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, if you want to save and be able to pay for your own place, which wherever you pay for, they're going to make sure that if you want your own place, you got to make 3 times as much.
Yeah.
So if you got a $1,800 a month rent, well, that times 3 is almost $6,000. So if you only make this much, but you want to get to that much, you're not going to be able to do it working this job. You're going to have to get full-time here and probably work another part-time job. But you can get a roommate. Okay, cool. Well, then that cuts that in half.
Yeah.
But still, you guys together have got to show that you guys make $6,000 a month, and then you guys divvy those things.
And they better be trustworthy.
And yeah, exactly. Then that brings on a whole nother, type of relationship change possibility between you and a friend or you and this roommate. So just helping her try to gauge, the things that she's interested in. Is the return on that investment now worth it? Or should you maybe pivot and put this on the back burner for now? You're not leaving it. Yeah. We'll come back to it because you've already started it and you want to finish it. Great. Well, then maybe we need to work on, hey, let's just see if we can get you more hours, get you at a better shift so you can make better tips, because she's a barista at a very nice upscale place here in Lacey. And she makes pretty good money for the things that she does, but she knows that she can make better money if she's at this different shift. I was like, okay, well, then that's what you do. And if you can't get that there, then maybe it's time for a move.
Yeah.
And again, creating opportunities for yourself, because she created that opportunity. She didn't like where she was before, found this place, transitioned there, and she's done great. But now it's not to her liking as much. And it's like, okay, well, then pivot.
Yeah.
Either ask for it here and hopefully they can accommodate you. And if not, then move on, because all of these things are hopefully going to get you to the goal that you want.
Yeah.
So you got to concentrate on this. Don't concentrate on that and rush to get there, because no matter how much you rush, the things that are going to rush you to get there, it's going to make it simple, i.e. loans for school, which you cannot defer from, or you can defer them, but you can't bankruptcy out of them. You're going to pay that money back.
Yeah.
And the interest rates on those loans are horrible. So just pay for your schooling as you take it, and know that, hey, doing it that way, it may take a little bit longer to get that 4-year degree, but that's okay. Because that's what because we only have this much money and this much time.
And you want to choose to live in this way.
Yeah. You want to choose to live in this way and have these things and have these, not make these other sacrifices, which would get you to this end goal quicker.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because I don't think you should be handcuffed down to just everything going into this one goal. There are some people who operate like that. Babe, I know you're not. I know you like to concentrate and know what your goal is, but you also like to have fun on these other things, which is fine too. But that takes balance, and that takes some analytical style of thinking on, what really is of value. Do I really need to do this right now? Do I need this thing? And so going through her budgeting and finances with that, and just sort of over a 3-month span, it sort of put in her face what she was spending in all of these things. She was like, oh my gosh, Dad. And I'm like, yeah. So now let's divide that by 3. That's how much you were spending per month. Do you need to spend that much per that? She's like, no. And I'm like, okay, cool. Then what do you think would be comfortable for you in food, entertainment, car? And there was a couple other categories. Miscellaneous was the last one, but there wasn't that much in that. She was able to put everything else in the other 5, which was pretty cool. And we were able to put together a pretty good budget, which would save her about $800. And then, hey, that means operate in this budget. If you get a higher paying job, still stay at this budget.
Yeah.
And all that extra money you got from a higher paying job, that goes into the bank, for that rainy day or something like that. Or put it towards some big goal like, hey, you know what? An extra class that you're going to take or something like that.
Yeah.
And she's working on it. And I told her, hey, after everything, settles, we'll come back and we'll review it in a month. How'd you do? And I'm not going to sit here and judge you because you're an adult.
Yeah.
You're 22 years old. You can make these decisions. I may not agree with them at the time, but that's okay because this is your life. These are your money. These are your choices.
Yeah.
Where if that choice you make impacts me, that's where I may have an issue. Like, hey, Dad, this happened. I just came back from a vacation away, and my car just blew up. Wow. Remember that? Remember that rainy day fund I was telling you about to always keep and not spend on other stuff? Well, that went to your trip to Europe, right? Well, yeah. Okay. Then we got to figure this stuff out.
Yep.
That's the lesson that I want you to learn is that maybe you didn't need to take that right now. Maybe if you could have picked up some extra shifts and made this fun to stay here,
mm-hmm.
and then allocate this extra money to go towards this other stuff. And again, this is just pulling stuff out of the air. She didn't mention this stuff at all. But again, that's sort of where I was going down the line. It doesn't mean that I would never help her.
Yeah.
But it's just I'm gonna have issues if you come to me asking for money, and I know you got savings.
Yeah.
Like, wait. You want me to spend my savings?
Yeah.
That I'm saving because I want to retire by the time I'm 55, maybe 60, so that you can save your money now when you're 22, 23. No. No. You had better be broke when you come to me. You done sold all your purses?
How many pairs of shoes?
Yeah, how many pairs of shoes? Girl, your closet is still full.
I ain't gonna lie, I halfway benefit from that because a lot of the hand-me-downs go to my daughter because my daughter's the next oldest in line, and she filters them down to Emily as well.
Oh,
I know it goes down through the couple
through
phases.
All the keikis.
Yeah. So, sadly, Keikilani needs to get that shopping addiction under wraps. Get that under control. Self-control, girl. Come on.
How much she spent on clothes? I'm like, I ain't spent that much on clothes in a year. Oh my God, girl. But she looks great and she's very thrifty.
Yeah.
So it's not what she buys, it's the volume of stuff she buys. And then I'm like, oh, that's a cute outfit. Yep. Value Village. All right, girl, you can pull it off. Way to go.
Well, I blame my wife for part of that because I know she was a big influence in taking her thrifting and stuff.
Yeah, garage sales and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but, hey, at least she's a little bit thrifty.
Oh,
but
no, totally.
I would much rather my wife be thrifty than be, hoity-toity and
getting Amazon packages every day.
I mean, we kind of already do that, but for different reasons. We got teenagers and a little business on the side.
Shoots, man.
But
so I guess getting back to, is there any final thoughts you have on, what really started this conversation as far as, us being without grandparents?
The only other thing that we didn't really talk about, I think, was just the fact that mom, seeing the fact that mom is now the matriarch.
Yeah.
I don't know if that comes with another sense of pressure, like you were saying. But that's the only place that I really thought, was just curious what that might feel like, for mom. I know we kind of had this thought about like, we're not like the little cousins anymore. We're getting to the age of uncle.
Yeah.
Right. And, in our culture, a term of endearment, for, any female, or male that's of not necessarily blood, but, part of the community and close with the family, they're uncle or auntie. Right. And I'm still having a hard time transitioning my mind into knowing who to call what. Because I'm pretty sure I've called uncle to some people that are younger than me, thinking like, oh shit, huh? I'm 43, man. Like, those guys are probably in their 30s. Yeah. So I know you had mentioned, a couple of people and saying brada instead.
Just brother and sis.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I might need to just start going there, man.
That's what I started doing, man. I was just like, man, it is so much easier because I know we don't look. We're told that we don't look the ages that we are.
Yes.
And so I think that carries over into exactly that because we see these people and I was like, are they older or younger than us? I don't know. Hey, Auntie, how's it?
Yeah.
And then I find out, oh, dang, she's like 5 years younger than me. Oh, shoot. Hey, sis, how you doing? So,
yeah.
No, that's I'm glad you sort of went there because honestly, it makes me think back like, dang it, we got to do this with Mom sooner than later. And I think that being a huge topic of conversation for her and just getting her point of view on stuff like, what does that mean? From our little discussions I've had with her, I think that's a title that she knows that she's always carried since being the oldest.
Yeah.
And sort of being out there, but at the same time, it's like now it's not the oldest just for her immediate brothers and sisters, but it's across the Paoakalani, the Paoakalani, and the generations now of people that are out there. It's just like, ooh. So yeah, I wonder what her thought is about that, and like how does she navigate that, or what does that mean to her? Like, what's the gravity in that now? So, yeah, I don't know, man. Anything else on your mind?
Man, we covered
quite a bit
about what was on my mind recently.
Yeah.
Just I think again, it's just this whole stage of life, and so wherever you're at, man, I want to encourage people to have conversations, man, about this, about where you are in your stage of life and how you doing. Because I know there's a lot of things that happen in these older years, especially, that people go through. Women start going through menopause, possibly, and becoming empty nesters. Those are huge milestones in your life, and I think not to draw too much attention to it and give you any angst, because we already all have plenty anxiety in our own lives, right? But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I want to encourage people to, do some self-assessment, check in. How are you doing? Have those conversations with somebody close to you about, your stage of life. Because even though we're, I was saying halftime's over and we're in, the second half of the game, I don't know. Part of me wanting to move is also, like I said, wanting to kind of take an adventure. I feel like, not that I've enjoyed all of Washington, but I've enjoyed a lot here.
Yeah.
And, I do feel like there's a lot else out there.
Oh, so there's
part of me wants to, kind of go and see what it's like to live someplace else. I mean, I would love nothing more than for you guys to follow us and come, live somewhere by us. But, knowing that you have a place here is like a beacon, of our old home. And I think, honestly, Washington will always be home.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because, I've spent more than half my life here, unless I get into those extra innings. We'll see how that goes. But, yeah, I don't know, man. Profound gratefulness. And I hope I can hold on to that because, of course, with the way we're wired and, emotionally, like you said, some of us are a little bit more emotionally driven.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I can keep, that mindset of gratefulness of things that really do matter and try not to worry so much about crap.
Yeah. Worry about the things you don't have control over.
Yeah. And just like you said, being a little bit more graceful with yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's what I got to work on is not being my own. We're always going to be your own worst critic, but when it becomes, something of a hindrance to you making progress, I think that's when it gets unhealthy. So, I haven't gotten to the point where I feel like it's completely debilitating, but definitely my inner voice needs to take a hike sometimes or
STFU.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
So, Yeah. What about you, man? Are you thinking anything else? Or?
No, I love what you said, and I think it sort of harkens back to, you know, what we started this podcast with and why we started this podcast. You know, yeah, it was first and foremost was to hopefully learn a little bit more, not only about ourselves, to be able to share those stories with, you know, our friends and family, and those who don't know us, um, but also to make sure that you take the time and communicate with those that you really love, and to consciously find someone or a group of people that you can be vulnerable with and get this stuff off your chest. I mean, you know, being guys, you know, a lot of times we're just told to tough it out. You know, you're going to make it. You know what? I think that works for a lot of things for us, you know, but I think there are some things that stay with us a while, and it just sort of eats at you until you get it out. And those are the things I think that we're talking about the most, is those things that just keep on coming back, whether it's a negative thought or just something that is not right for you, and you've done your due diligence as much as you can to control that thought, and it still keeps coming back. I think that's the time that you need to reach out, because, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and it isn't until you change your circumstance that, hey, it'll finally change. And sometimes that is just reaching out to someone and just, hey man, can we talk? And I'm so glad that I have you. I'm so glad that I've got, you know, my 3 best friends, to be able to have those conversations with, whether it's all of us in a group or even just one-on-one with ourselves, you know. So yeah, find those things. You know, I think it is of the utmost importance, because I think because of how much the world has changed so much, it's changed the pressure that I feel is on us outside of the pressure that was put on our parents and especially our dad.
Yeah.
You know, just like I'm sure the pressure that he was under as a father at his certain ages was different than the pressures that Grandpa Nipa was on, and so on and so forth, going back, you know. So yeah, I appreciate you saying in closing with that, man, because I think that is very, very important. And I think you do yourself a disservice if you don't try to find those people. And it's not to say that it's you're going to find the first, you know, the first person you talk to is going to be that person. No, it takes some time. And sometimes it takes you being vulnerable with someone and then learning that lesson, like, oh, okay, that was a bad judge of character at this time, you know, for whatever reason. But hopefully you will stay the path, because there is a lot of value in finding someone that you can, or some people that you can open up to, and sometimes let this stuff off, because either that person has gone through it as well, or they may look at that situation that you just, you know, vomited on them, and they're like, well, have you thought about looking at it like this? And that's maybe all you needed, was just another way to look at the situation that you're going through. Because I feel like for us especially, we get so in the weeds on how we feel about certain things, and in our emotions about how we did this or how we're going to do this, that we can't release ourselves and back up and sort of look at the whole situation with a set of eyes from outside. But instead we're just knee deep in it, and we're just super focused on either this negative thing, and it's because this other person is listening to what we're saying and looking at it from an outside perspective, that they're able to see, well, have you thought about this? Well, oh, you know, hey, I understand you're putting value and, you know, you're worrying about that, but hey, have you thought about, you know, what about this over here? You know, you could be grateful about this, or, you know what, man, that's not the truth that I see you in, you know? And so I think, again, to reiterate what Noah said and what we've started this podcast with, that there's a lot of value in being vulnerable, but also sometimes it's hard finding that person, but you need to just keep looking, because they're out there.
We're meant to do life alone, man.
Yeah.
And even if we're hundreds of miles apart, I think it would be cool to figure out a way for us to continue, you know, to keep this rolling. And I don't know. We'll figure that out when that time comes.
Cross the bridge when we get there.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's not like that's happening anytime soon. It's going to be probably a couple of years before that. But again, that part in me partly makes me want to do, you know, all the more with this. So hopefully we'll have a few more episodes popping out here soon. So hopefully we won't go too long between now and the next episode. But Poe and I are, again, we're just living life and capturing the moments when we can, dude. I appreciate you doing this, man. And
of course, man. I appreciate you, man.
Put together. And
And we hope that you guys, those who've stayed with us so far, hopefully you got a little glimpse of maybe, man, I'm going through the exact same thing, and maybe I'll look at it that way. Or, man, I never thought about that, but I'm pretty sure that's coming down the pipeline, so I'll be able to use that. Or maybe that context that they were talking about may or may not work, but at least you have some preface for some of the things that we're going through. And I really don't believe we're alone. Either you're going through it, you've gone through it, or there's a good possibility it may. So love you guys. Sending you love and aloha. DaPoNoPodcast.
Booyah.
Ahui ho.
Ahui ho.